Hey, what's up, all? So, I wrote an article about 4 reasons why direct opening doesn't work, and I wrote a similar article about one reason or one situation where direct opening works. All right, so this is just a video component to that. For people who didn't read the article, you can check that out. I'll post a link to it. But getting into it, the main reason is that women do not make sexual romantic decisions like men, right? As a man, we see a girl, we like her physically, and that tends to be it for most guys, right? The decision ends there. They're not interested in whether she's on drugs. They're not interested in whether she's a little scatterbrained. They're not interested in anything else, right? She looks good. That's it. For most guys, she looks good. That's it, right? Women don't work that way. Women don't make immediate decisions about the men that they like, right? That they want to date, have sex with, etc., whatever, right? It's not an immediate thing. It's not a snap decision, not a snap judgment, right? It takes time. They have to see your personality. They have to see who you are. They have to see your character, how you carry yourself, the traits you embody. And that takes time. When you open direct, a key fundamental flaw of it is that you're asking, just the nature of it, you're asking a woman to make a split-second decision about whether she likes you or not, on the spot, quickly. And she doesn't do this, right? This is not how the bulk majority of women make their decision. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to be rushing. You're rushing the pace of the interaction, and you're forcing her to make a decision not on your behalf, right? Not to see you again, not to see how far this goes. You're asking her to reject you because of that. She needs time to see who you are. This is why even in day game, we would say indirect or situational is best. In night game, you don't necessarily have to be indirect, but something other than referencing her looks, how much you like her for what you see, right? But you give the interaction time to heat up so she sees who you are. And she sees what you're working with and what she's possibly going to be working with. So again, women do not make split-second decisions about the men that they want. It takes time. And when you go direct, you're rushing it. You're rushing to the point. You're pushing it farther than it should be pushed. You're asking her to make a split-second decision on that. Second reason is it's over-validating, right? And that's pretty clear to understand, right? When you start off with a compliment, it can be a lot for a girl to take in, especially if it's a physical compliment, how cute she is, how sexy she is, etc., etc. And there's social pressure that comes with that. So that makes it even worse. That makes it even more of a burden to carry, right? Over validating is obviously a key flaw, right? It's a key sin. Maybe we'll call it a sin, right? You're not supposed to do that. But especially when you're doing it very, very quickly. If you do it, let's say you give compliments later in the interaction. If you go overboard, there's always a chance you can turn it around, you can smooth it out, you can save the interaction. But if you start that way, over validating, over complimenting, with too strong, too high a level, especially in the wrong social situation, right? Where social pressure is an added motivator for her. She's around her friends or her parents or something like that. You're just killing the magic of the interaction. It's doing you a lot of harm. And it's doing you no favors. So keep that point in mind. Over validating, even more so when there's a higher degree of social pressure involved. And the third is why you do not want to open direct is because you don't want to start at a level that's too high, too energetic. You don't want to start the interaction at a high point that you cannot consistently maintain throughout it. If you start the interaction at a high point that you can't continue with, that you can't continue on, not only continue on, but increase, the interaction feels like it's getting worse, and she'll want to leave because she doesn't want to stay and be part of something that's getting worse. The interaction has to improve over time. It has to get better. She has to feel like she's in something that's working, that's moving upward. If you open direct, you're putting the high point of the interaction, especially if you do not know how to flirt properly, increasingly throughout the interaction. The high point of the interaction becomes the first moment. And everything else feels like it's getting worse. Everything else feels like you start here, right, for reference point. I'm moving my hands, and then everything else feels like it's getting worse. Because you don't know how to maintain that sexual chemistry, the tension. You don't know how to not only maintain it, but increase it. So it dies off, it goes away. You always want to start an interaction, day game or night game, at the lowest intensity, the lowest energy point possible. The lowest. And you want to increase the feel, the energy of the set over time. You want it to feel like it's getting better. You want her to have the experience that the longer she spends with you, the better the interaction goes, the better it gets. So you want to hit your high point later in the set, not early. But with direct, you reverse this. And that does you a huge disservice, right? You're burning out your interactions way too quickly. And so, really it was 3 reasons, so I apologize for the misspeak earlier. The one situation where direct does work or can work is related to the curve that I mentioned before. If you hit a high note early, the highest note possible in the interaction, the highest peak, the point, and it feels like it's going down, if you have a situation where you have to get in and get out, You're in a rush, you're already late for something. You still want to open this girl, you still want to see where it goes. If you get in and out, right, a couple minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So you open at a high point, but you leave before it has the time or it has the feel of getting worse. If you can do that, then that is the only place where direct can be applicable, because you're not giving the interaction time to feel like it's getting worse. You can leave before that. So that is the only time that I would recommend anybody using that approach. Other than that, in day game, you're doing indirect or situational, something neutral. And at night game, it's neutral or situational. Those are the absolute best. So keep those 3 reasons in mind, right? 1, you're asking her to make a split-second decision on the spot with no information about you. 2, it's over-validating, especially when it comes to high social pressure situations for her. And 3, it's too high of a point to start an interaction at. You want to start the interaction low and raise it over time. So go out, check this out, change openers, see what works best, right? I would ask you to pay attention to it. Switch your opener for day game and night game and see how much better the interactions go. Don't just take my word for it. Go out and try it. So happy trails.